All set? All right. It's the capital budget committee meeting of Monday, August 24th. Or take attendance.
Chris Peich, here.
Ben Mullany, present.
Kathy Forrest, present.
Susan Franklin, present.
I'm not sure why this is not. You should be still.
There we go.
Okay, all right. All right, so DPW tide gate request. We didn't see any paperwork. Kevin, was there paperwork? And we,
Yeah, it was put together today. I do have
oh, okay.
stuff to give you. Didn't know how many people would be here, so
Thank you.
But that paperwork's not available electronically yet.
it is not, no.
One of our members is remote tonight.
I could have Tracy send it to them tomorrow if that would help them. This is more to bring you guys up to speed of, we are looking for about $170,000 to update and repair the current tide gate down at Jacobs Meadow. The tide gate has become stuck again for one of many multiple times, and it seems to be that the cause of it is the material that the gate is made out of is not holding up to our environment. So we are proposing to replace it with a stainless steel gate, the cost of which is really only, I would say, between $10,000 and $20,000 more than what the existing material is.
What is the existing material?
Aluminum is the current one. The stainless should hold up to whatever is giving us the problem in the environment. Currently, right now, we can't operate it. The only way we're letting water out is our 4-foot emergency valve that's on the side. So if we have any major storms or any astronomical flooding, we're gonna back up water up the Jacobs Meadow area, the Elm Street houses, up to the public safety facility, sewer plant. So we do need to kind of make some repair to this. We're not recommending replacing it with what's there. We already did that before, about 4 years ago. It did not work out. So we already had to do this once. We replaced the rails, the guides, all the parts of the door to make it work because it had previously jammed up on us. So we don't want to just fix that again because we know we're going to end up into that situation in another 4 years.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember. Wasn't there also something about the device that actually lifted and lowered the gate?
Yeah, we previously removed the slides and some of the gaskets because we had the door jamming up. And by doing that, we got it to work, but then we were damaging the shaft and the gears that ran it. So we had to go back and replace everything to get the gears going. And now we're back here again 3 years later after doing all that. So the design of the aluminum door just is not working for this application. And our contractor has proposed two options. If you go through the packet, he's only recommending either the cheapest or the most expensive. The cheapest being he's going to go in and cut out the slides and gaskets again and trim down the door so it'll work. But we already know that's going to mess up the gears. So if we go down that road, we're going to spend $40,000 to, in a year, have to replace the gears. We'll be back here again. So we're kind of hoping you guys will support the project of replacing it with stainless steel, which is used in water treatment plants around all the corrosive chemicals. Doesn't seem to break down, is recommended by the manufacturer. We are going to advisory to see if they will give us some emergency funding to order the door because it has a 14-week time frame in order to get it. So that's how far out we're already sitting if we don't make a move. But they would prefer your recommendation as to whether you will actually replace their emergency funds if they do it.
So there must be neighboring communities with tide gates. We're not the only ones,
There are.
And we have other tide gates.
and we have other tide gates. So what have, based on neighboring communities and our other tide gates, what actually works? Because I don't want to put a stainless steel one in that then 2 years later, it's like, no, that didn't work either.
Part of this, we're proposing to put in a dual stem because that also was weighing in on wearing the,
It's a dual stem.
well, Hull has one over in West Corner on their tide gate as you bring up neighboring communities. They have a 4-foot door. We have an 8.
Mhm.
Their door has a dual stem. We're using a single. So when the single stem is going up, it allows the door to rock a little bit as it opens. So that rocking could be wearing the tracks. We're not sure if it is, but that rocking definitely wears the gears when we remove all the glides and track material that's inside the current door.
Just if you could just simplify, is the dual stem horizontal, like dual horizontal supports rather than just on the ends? What does that mean?
The current one has one stem in the center. They'll be moved out. It'll have a different gearing system, but it'll still be just like what's there, except it'll be 2 outer stems. So they'll be moving at the same time, keeping equal pressure on both sides of the door. So it won't allow for any shifting.
And shares the load between the two mechanisms?
Yes.
Okay.
And our current motor actually can handle the load of that. So we don't even have to change out. We don't have to go for a bigger motor or anything like
What material does the whole tide gate use?
for
Is it aluminum, stainless?
the current one is aluminum. Everything's aluminum.
But the motor is housed in a, where's the motor?
The motor is on top of the
Oh, it
unit.
does sit right on top.
Yeah, it sits right on top. You can actually see it if you're looking at it. So
And that is currently in a aluminum housing?
that is, it's actually its own casing. I don't know what it's made of. To be honest, I can't answer that question. It's not enclosed in anything. The motor itself is just out.
Oh, yeah.
So it's whatever the manufacturer puts it together in, but
What's the age of that motor?
that motor's gotta be 5 years old.
Oh, so relatively new.
Yeah.
What is it about our current our environment there that is so caustic is other than
don't know.
salt water?
That we don't know. I don't know if it's the combination of the salt water coming in on one and the fresh water on the other. I don't know if something in the harbor is not working with the aluminum. We haven't gotten into that end of the spectrum yet.
So you probably, the issue is the issue, but it probably would be good to try to figure that out at some point,
Yes.
because this looks pretty rough shape.
It's pretty clear language.
Yeah.
There's a small incremental negligible difference between the aluminum and stainless steel slides and gate.
Yeah.
Okay, so all in 170, that's installed and everything? Or-
Yep.
Where would you rank this repair versus all of the other investments that are going on in the water world?
Right now the tide gate's not operational. So we have to do something to it. Just a matter of how much money we can put at it and how you want to fix it.
So, I mean, if the capital budget was full and something had to move to make room for this spend, so something
Yeah,
that
we
you could
would-
find in your budget.
Yeah, we would push something on out to repair this because this has to be gone. So.
So there are some parts here that are aluminum. Or am I just reading this wrong?
Which sheet are you?
I mean, on the quotation.
So the end, so that is the contractor's, the last one on the quotation is the company. Those are all the quotes for all the different parts, the breakdown. So those parts are in the 170 quote. I was working with Brian on this before he left. We had asked them to quote out the door to replace it as it was, as well as stainless. So that's why this is a breakdown of what each part would cost. The stainless replacement is the two item 5s on the back page. No, sorry. It's the item 4 and item 5, not the last item 5. The last item 5 was just seals if we were to do that $40,000 repair, because those seals are part of that.
Okay, so the gate and the slide is about 50,000.
Yes. And then the dual stem is 16.
Dual stem is on. Where's the dual stem on here?
That's item number 3 at the top of that second page.
That's that one. That's where I saw aluminum.
Yep.
So the stem is still aluminum.
Because we could, if we didn't do the dual stem, we could cut the price down to about 150,000, keeping the current single operator, the current stem the way it is, just replacing everything with stainless.
Yeah, I'm confused. So you're saying that the stems aren't going to be stainless either way.
Right. But they're also not in the shape. They're outside. They haven't. The stem itself, the current one, which the other ones will be, is enclosed in a like plastic, clear see-through plastic case that keeps it from getting the weather or any outside environment into it. So
They'll only make contact with the water when the gate's wet and it's going up.
Yeah.
And what's the useful life for these supposed to be, since we only got 5 years out of the last one?
the company didn't give me a good answer on that, but in most cases they've seen some to 20 to 50 years,
Mhm.
depending on the environment that it's in. They've seen some go in 6 months when it's in a real bad chemical environment. So
Mhm. And this particular vendor, why did you choose this vendor in particular?
They're the ones that currently did the current gate, so we just went back to them.
Were they,
They-
were they surprised that our gate had so much corrosion?
They were. I was actually in the chamber with them when they were looking, so they don't expect to see that much in this at this area. So, like if this was our water treatment plant up on
Mhm.
King Street, yeah, they would expect to see that. They didn't expect it to see it down here, so they don't know what is causing that chemical reaction. So,
And who is this, Joseph Dorset from the Ardent Group?
he would be the guy in doing the labor and installing the door.
So Whips's products,
Right.
okay.
They're the door manufacturer, and
And the option 7, 163 includes these 3 items?
yes.
This is quotation just for the parts. And then there's
Yeah.
labour on top.
That was just to give you an idea of all the breakdown, because on Joe's quotes, all the ones he doesn't recommend, if you looked at those, it would say aluminum parts or would say stainless steel parts. The other sheet is there, so you can go, okay, that's what that price would be.
Yeah.
And do we know of anybody else who has a stainless steel cat gate that they're using?
Not that I could say off the top of my head. I could get information from them.
Yeah, would presumably Joseph would know.
Yeah, I could find out who else uses them.
It would be great to talk to somebody who
Okay.
uses them.
Mhm.
My concern is that we spend $170,000 and then there's something that's intrinsically wrong at Jacobs Meadow. And 5 years from now, you're back saying, yeah, stainless steel didn't work either.
Yeah.
It just seems to be recurring.
Yeah, Whips, the company that makes it, is recommending the stainless steel because, like I said, they use that at the water treatment plants with the corrosive chemicals. So they believe that will
Yeah.
hold up against whatever is there. We shouldn't have an issue, is basically what they're saying. But,
Not with the door, maybe
Yeah.
with the environment.
right. So,
Because that's where the town sewer is too, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
It's in Jacobs Meadow.
Yeah, it's, you know, yeah.
yeah, it's,
Presumably
it's
comes out
further up.
It's
But
kind of near the
but-
police, across from the police.
Yeah.
fire.
Yeah.
There's a-
So there's a lot of stuff.
there could be, yes.
Their saltwater intrusion. I mean, this looks like kind of ocean type corrosion, really, doesn't it? Not fresh water.
Yeah, we don't know what's causing it. That's the problem. And I mean, we used to, Arden's been doing the maintenance on it now, but prior to the last repair, we would go in every year and we would scrape the barnacles and we would
Mm.
clean it. We were still having jam ups, so we don't know what, the aluminum just doesn't like that environment for some reason. So,
Mystery.
Hmm.
Okay. What would, is the committee want to request, just request some additional information?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyone else have something in addition they would like to see? Kathy asked for other towns that are using the
Yeah,
doors.
some information on how long they've lasted, et cetera. And if anybody's using them as a tide gate versus at a water treatment.
right. So I can definitely reach out to them and get some other places and make some phone calls and get you some information.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And do we want more detail other than just an email of the 163,824?
Well, yeah,
And do we
Is
need
it-
to have more than one?
did you email, what was it called, this thing?
This quotation add up to like 100 or something, doesn't it? So
Yeah.
between this and the 163 is
Well, the
installation.
quotation
Formal.
for the stainless steel is only the number 3, 4, and 5. The 2 on the front would be if we went replaced the aluminum door,
So it's
which
even less than 10
Yeah.
7.
so
So the other 100 is
the other 100 is all labor. It's actually it's like 96,000 in labor, because to get the current door out, they're gonna need to bring in a crane. We're gonna need to dam up the opening while the door is removed so they can replace all the hardware. So it's a bit of an undertaking. Everything needs to be dry in there, so they're gonna have to divert the water and pump it out of the chamber. So all that's been taken
Oh.
into his cost.
But.
Yeah.
Okay,
But that kind of has to be done no matter what we do. So that labor's not gonna, it might change a few thousand, but not nothing drastic.
so is the Ardent Group just an installation company or are they a consulting kind of work?
A little bit of both. I know they're doing work for the sewer plant. They're doing work for the water plant. They do a little bit of everything here.
Okay, because they clearly are saying they don't recommend most of these. It's either, spend the short money and get another aluminum door
Mhm.
and ride it out and see what happens. Or not recommending anything until you get to the full stainless steel replacement.
Yep.
Okay. Chris, you want any other information? Nope. All right, yeah, if you wouldn't mind making a couple phone calls on that.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned that advisory.
Yeah, advisory. I think Michelle went to advisory last week, and they wanted, I guess, run by you to make sure that if they approve the funding to at least buy the stainless steel door, you would be
Comfortable
Support.
funding.
supportive of
Yeah.
refunding their emergency fund. So
You're saying that they need to make a deposit to put in you need to make a deposit to put in the order?
yes, unfortunately, we're working on a short time frame on that because the quote is only good till
Really?
September 8th. So at that point, they're not going to guarantee that price. The door price could go up. So
Yeah, there's that, but
Yeah.
there's also the fact that you get a lot of rain in the fall.
yeah, we've gotten lucky this year with the drought that we haven't had any issues. So
Okay,
I would not say the drought's a good thing, but it worked out for this problem. So,
okay.
would you prefer if I find out some other communities, would you prefer it just emailed so you can review it, or is there?
Would be great.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
maybe tell us a little bit about why they selected it and what their experience has been.
Okay.
We do have, sick bank calling on.
Okay.
To let you know.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, the rest of your night goes well.
All right. So who do we have first for the STM? Does it matter? Chief's here. You wanna start?
Right here.
Okay. How are you, Chief?
Good evening, everyone. My understanding you spoke about this last week?
You did.
Okay. I know you had some questions. So, let me see if I can just answer your questions from the bullet point email I received. How old is the Zetron system? It's probably 25 plus years old. We put it in the mid 90s. So in the early 90s, we used to do our own dispatch. In 94, we moved over to a civilian dispatch, which was housed in the police station. And then we moved to this new station alerting system, the Zetron system, back in the mid 90s. So it's been in the building since the mid 90s and it's probably about 25 years old. Okay. The other question, why won't the Shrek pay for the replacement? The Shrek only will cover from their end, the starting point of the call, to the fiber, to the switch. And after the switch, it's on the town because it's the town infrastructure. We're not the first department that's had problems with the system over the years. Hingham had a problem, had to do some replacement. They had to pick up the cost. Norwell, the same thing. They had problems, had to pick up a cost. It's the same thing with our radio systems. They will handle all the cost up to the transmitter and receiver sites, but the day-to-day radios that we use in the apparatus and the portable radios, that's on us. We have to cover the expenses for repairing that. So it's that's how the Shrek works with these
Oh, so it
systems.
has more to do with the structure of how the transmission.
Yeah, correct.
You were under the impression last week that it had to do with when we joined.
No,
Joined.
no, we've like I said, we've been using the system since the civilian dispatch was on the police side of the house in the station. And then when it moved to Hingham, it was easy. We already had the infrastructure, so there wasn't a big cost in that point. But again, we've had this infrastructure since the mid-90s. So, are we the only station experiencing the static problem? Yes, right now. It's an ongoing issue. It comes 24/7. It's across the station and it fluctuates from loud to soft. And then when the tone goes off and there's an announcement of the call, sometimes we can't hear the dispatcher coming over the Zetron system because of the static and the noise in the background. I will tell you, there are days when it drives me crazy and I just want to leave the building. And the troops are putting up with it 24/7. And it's very, very drives you crazy. I'll leave it at that. Okay.
Torture tech.
It's a torture. Yeah, it is true torture. Okay. How often has this system like this been replaced? We haven't. It's been with us for, like I said, 25 plus years. And can it be reused if removed from the renovation at Elm Street? So there are speakers on the police side. So there is wiring on the police side. So yeah, we can use it. It would definitely be used when we come time to renovate. So, and we have on our side of the house, we have about 16 speakers. And on the police side, Chief Quigley can verify, but there's about 4 or 5 on each side speakers. So
There may need to be some reconfiguration of the speakers.
yeah, just reconfiguration. Because we're going to be, if an event we reconfigure Elm Street, there's going to be some wall reconfiguration. So you have to reconfigure the placement of the speakers. So,
That doesn't change the value of the device. I mean,
yeah, no, because the device,
putting another line doing those.
yeah. The device is not just the speakers alone, but also some of the, we have lights that automatically come on too, when the tones go off.
So that's in addition to speakers and not like on speaker.
Mm-hmm.
It's a separate.
It's a separate light. Indicator light. So,
And how much does this cost? Do we get a quote for it?
yeah.
That's what I was looking for. I left it on my desk.
It's around 50,000 on top of my head. And this is replacing speakers, wiring, amplifier, modular. I've had 2 different vendors come in to look at it. One of them, we did change out the amplifier and it didn't do anything. And then the other thing too is they come in and put in filters in the line to help reduce some of the static. Didn't help at all. Not at all. So, and then both vendors have said you need to replace the system. So,
Creating the noise.
yeah, that's creating the noise. So,
Did you get
So
to?
this will be your number one
from these-
priority to do right now.
yeah, for right now, because,
It's driving.
it happened after the budgetary season, last year. So it was too late to come in front of the Capitol or the whole budget process. And we thought maybe we could fix it with the 2 different vendors. No luck. So now we're here for a special town meeting. So
Chrissy, did you have?
Yeah, I just you mentioned the 2 vendors. Did those vendors each provide a quote for replacement? And if so, I'm just curious. I see the 49,000. I'm just curious where the other one came out, or were those just repair and you got one?
I just got the one from Allcom that does the servicing for
Okay.
all the Zetron systems in the community. The 4 communities in the Shrek Center.
Okay. And then if I remember correctly from last week, once we replace this, we would then be eligible for funding through the centralized fund going forward. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what we were just talking about, Chrissy, before you came on. Chief Docker explained why this isn't funded by Shrek, and it doesn't really have anything to do with when we became under the Shrek umbrella as members. It's more about who is responsible for the transmission, from point A to the final point, and
Yeah.
when it reaches the town, it becomes the town's responsibility.
Right. Correct.
Okay,
Because it's been,
so yeah, I understand this wouldn't be funded by Shrek. I thought it was if we fund this going forward, it would be covered by Shrek. Is that not correct?
no,
We would
Shrek
always, the
doesn't-
town would always be responsible for this. So this should
Correct.
be part of our capital budget going forward.
Correct.
Okay.
And we haven't seen this ugly problem in 25 years, so it isn't something we could, plan.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll put a plan in for 20 years out, but like I said, it really hasn't caused any problems until recently.
Mhm. So you mentioned that Allcom does the servicing. So is that like a warranty kind of program servicing or a servicing contract that you have with them? Is it part of the funding here, or is that on your operating budget?
It's on my operating budget. Yeah, when they first came out, I had to, pay for their services out of my radio maintenance line item. So.
Does anyone have any other questions? Are you guys prepared to vote? Yes, okay. I have a motion. Anybody want to give me a motion?
Oh, yes. I don't have the number though.
Oh,
Okay.
we don't have the exact number. Do you have the exact number in front of you, Chrissy?
I do, yeah. So I had it. Let me just pull it up. So motion to approve the VoIP PA system for a total of $49,356.82.
Second motion.
Voice vote, please.
Chrissy Francona, aye.
Kathy Forrest, aye.
Chris Peisch, aye.
Susan Franklin, aye.
Ben Maloney, aye.
Thank you, members. Appreciate it. Thank you, for support.
Chief.
Chief, one thing we had talked about last week, I know this is on a much longer replacement cycle, but just, I know we talked with Michelle. I can't see everyone who's there, but Michelle, I assume you're sitting off to the side. It would be helpful just to have like a full list of items that could at some point come before capital budget, even if this is brand new and we don't expect it for a while. Just, I feel like that's something we're missing.
Yeah, we were just talking that like you said, this has been just around for so long
Right.
that it hasn't really been on our list, but we're saying that we get really good reports about vehicles,
Mm-hmm.
and if we could just have similar thing for capital items that, are likely to need to be replaced.
Don't you get the capital 10-year plan?
Well, we do, but it's like a little word in a box.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was a spread. I usually get a
Or
spreadsheet.
just make sure
that I
that's
have to complete.
comprehensive, like something like this.
Yeah.
would
Okay.
be
Yeah, I mean,
conservative.
Okay.
that's all part of what we're working on as a group anyway, along with Michelle and Ben.
Yeah.
It's doing a lot of work. But I guess what we're saying is probably going to be asking you,
Okay.
like every other department,
Mhm.
to give us a deeper view
Okay. Yep.
into what their needs are.
Yeah. No, that
Plan.
yeah, that's fine. Yep. Okay.
Great.
Understood.
Good.
All right. Great. Thank you, members. Thank you. See you.
Okay, Lisa, you can bring on Chief Quigley. You too. Is he on?
Hey, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, hi, sorry.
Hi, Chief.
Yes, you're on.
I can I can back up Chief Dockery and that thing driving you crazy. It's like a background hum/static all day long. Drive you right out of your mind. All right, which I sent first, good evening, everybody. I sent the chair a memo, a couple of memos, actually, 3, I believe.
Mhm. Yep.
Where do you guys want to start?
I mean, I happen to have the handgun one on the top of my pile, so.
I
Okay.
only saw the scanner one from Lisa. And there was another one, and I can't, as I said, I can't get access to Wi-Fi here. No, no.
Oh, you want?
The scan is the easy one. How about if we start with that?
Yeah,
wanna do
let's
this
do it
first?
first.
Okay.
Yeah, so I sent the memo explaining, how it ended up off of our capital budget, off the 10-year plan.
Yep.
And it was supposed to live under IT along with the police station itself. Was supposed to live under facilities. Whether that happened or not, I don't know. So that's the reason it come off our schedule. If you look back, for 15 years, the scanner was there and it was slated for replacement right around now. So we were notified back in, I believe, May, and I notified Susan that day that it has reached end of service life. It's not going to be supported anymore, and I wanted to get this on your radar for replacement as soon as possible, so we don't end up in a position where we cannot scan people's fingerprints. And the price, which is outrageous. Actually, it's just a scanner. It's basically it's like a scanner at your house, but we're a captive audience. It comes from the feds, and it's a sole source bid. So it's not like you can go out and buy it. You have to use their vendor. And we don't have an exact price, but it looks to be $30,000. And the life on these are 20 years. And how it's used is every prisoner that comes in has to be every arrest has to be supported by fingerprints. So every person has to have their fingerprints scanned, and we get an immediate read back from the FBI as to who those prints belong to if your prints are in the system. And if your prints are not in the system, they're in the system now, and they're attached to the name you give us at booking. So whatever name you give us at booking, those prints are attached to that. That's your name in the view of the government. That's your name in the view of the government for the rest of your life.
So Chief, I think last week they mentioned that the original one was funded by a grant.
No, I did some research, and this machine was purchased before I was chief. It looks, I can't see the exact date. I couldn't find it. But it does not appear to be funded by a grant. It looked like it was a capital item.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate the memo. It's helpful to see the history of it, but why was it never approved in any of these budgets?
It was on the 10-year plan. It was slated for, I believe, next year for replacement. If you look at our capital plan back from I think it was 13, 14, and 15, it was scheduled for replacement in fiscal 26 or 27. It got pushed back 1 year.
Oh, okay.
So it was there. It's on its normal replacement schedule, but because it was taken out of our capital replacement plan and allegedly put in IT's, it was off my radar.
Okay.
And it is no longer in the IT budget?
I don't know if Chris ever put it in there. I don't, because I can't see their budget. So
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure what he did.
I don't recall seeing it.
Yeah, his thing was, it's more of it's serviced by IT, and it should live in their budget.
Mhm. So whose budget carries the service and support then?
So service and support was in IT's budget, but before Chris left, he transferred any police software in maintenance contracts to my budget. So as of last year, anything to support police software or hardware is now in my budget. It lives under equipment maintenance.
Okay.
Because we have so many applications that we use. IT was spending a lot of time paying our bills, having to do with support of our CAD software, our mobile data terminals, our radio software. So he figured it'd be easier for us to pay him.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Even the parking tickets now, we pay for the support and maintenance of that software.
Makes sense. Does anyone have any additional questions for the chief on this? Somebody, did Michelle just present this to us last week?
She did,
Yeah. Because someone had asked about, if you didn't get funding, would you be able to limp along? And just want to hear your answer on that.
Yeah, it's working fine right now. It's just that they won't support it. I believe it was after October. As long as everything remains stable, we can make it till next year. But if it breaks, I'm not exactly sure. I don't have a plan for that. Because we have to identify people that are in custody. I mean, it is working now, but
Yeah.
it's working till it isn't.
So why is the support plan end before what you guys thought you would be using it for? It seems
I'm sorry?
they're just, you're saying that they're just like switching their support, like maybe they're changing the technology that drives the system, and kind of like when they do Windows.
I would guess that that's what it is. Again, the morning that they notified us that it was at end of life, I typed a memo to you and Michelle. I believe that was back in May. So it wasn't information we were sitting on. That is actually the first time we learned of it. And I have to check exactly on when the end of life date is, but it is imminent. It is before annual town meeting.
All right. Well, you said you couldn't find the original invoice for it, so maybe we
Yeah,
are at
I
the
mean,
end of life.
It had to be sometime around 2010 or 11 or 12.
Mhm. Okay. Does anyone have any further questions?
Okay.
Are people on the committee ready to vote? Yes. No? Okay. Let's make sure I get this. I lost it. What's the terminology here? So Ademia is the name of the vendor, is that correct?
Correct. Yes. It's sole source.
All right. All right, so let's do this. A motion to approve the purchase of an Ademia fingerprint scanner,
Yeah. Well, it's called a live print scanner.
live print scanner. For $31,705. Is that the correct number?
Correct.
Okay. Okay. I have a second.
Second the motion.
Vote.
Kathy Forrest, aye.
Chris Fleisch, aye.
Ben Maloney, aye.
Chrissy
Chrissy?
Francona, aye.
Susan Franklin, aye. Great. Okay, Chief?
Okay, thank you. On to the handgun.
Chief, just before we move on, again, this is probably for Michelle as well. It'd be helpful to just get an understanding of the public safety budget and how, like, with things sort of moving around, like, how are we actually thinking about it now? What is in other budgets? What's in your budget, just generally? Also, just so we don't run into issues like this where something goes missing.
No, I agree. Chris had started to switch things around by the end, and like right now, like regional dispatch sits fully in my budget, even though it's used by the fire department as well. So there's the $680,000 in my budget that's for dispatch as well as emergency management. So it's sort of, some of the things are really nuanced, but that's a fair point. And there really isn't. We have a pretty comprehensive 10-year plan, but I did review it and I did notice some things missing the other day. And I think part of that is there's several versions of the 10-year plan going around. And the one that I have, it was different than the one the town manager had. So I'm not exactly sure who has editing rights to some of these things. And when it gets updated or if something ends up in the wrong column. So I did talk with Michelle today, and we are going over it as far as the police department. I know she's working on it with other department heads as well, but it's a great point.
Yeah, and something
Yeah.
like that that's like police and fire, I think you're just gonna have to pick. I mean, that's reasonable. It's stuff like what's in IT, is there stuff in the school budget, like understanding that a little bit more, stuff that we wouldn't necessarily think is public safety.
Yeah, like parking tickets, all the parking ticket machines and all those lived in the town manager's budget, the select board's budget. Now they're in mine. So it's, we're still trying to, we're still crawling on that. We're almost at walking, but it is a great point, and we have to square this away.
Okay. Let's move on to the handgun replacement.
Handguns, I did send a updated memo this morning requesting at most $48,000. I'm waiting to get a price on. There's trade-in value to the approximately 38 guns that we have, and they're worth somewhere between $200 and $300. But it's tough to get a price because the market is really volatile with those. So it's likely to be $10,000 less than the 48 were originally requested.
Chief, who did you send the memo to? I didn't get any memo today. Did we
I have
get
one
any?
for $40,000. I don't have a 48.
I have a 40,000.
Yeah, we have one that's dated June 2nd, but we haven't received an updated memo. I'm wondering if maybe you want to pull that up on your end and just go through the main
Yeah,
points.
let me see if I can get
Okay.
it. I did send it to Susan's email and Michelle.
Yeah, I saw it in my email.
I didn't want to go around the chair.
I
didn't
know,
want to go around the chair.
I'm not looking at my email right now.
Let me just find it.
Yeah, part of it is just getting materials in a little, there's always a rush to the finish line, and it makes it hard because some people don't have much luck accessing the Microsoft 365 platform, and then there's email madness, and I was not sitting at my computer today because I have my grandkids in town, so I took the day off of work, so I
How
just
dare
happened
you.
to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, how dare I?
I'm
I'm
trying
I
to
happened to see it just before the
I'm sure
meeting.
Chief Quigley can eloquently take us through the memo.
Yeah, you can take us through it, but
I cannot.
yeah.
If you give me permission to share out my screen, I have the memo right here.
sure. Lisa, can you do that? I can't even find it. But I did see it.
Or if Lisa makes me a co-host.
I think that's what she's working on.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah. Did it come up?
Yeah.
Okay. Basically, which
Oh,
grant?
that's the scanner. That's the scanner memo.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
That's,
Getting that.
that's what I just opened myself, so I'm not sure.
Quite possibly I sent the thing twice. I sent you the old one, but let me
Go to your salt.
Well, when I look at it, I open it and I get the scanner one.
Yeah.
it's quite possible I sent
said-
the wrong one.
Did go to every.
And send the wrong attachment.
Okay, I got it.
Feasibility study here. No. Accidentally.
I'm just gonna, in the interest of saving time. You wanted to, one of the questions you guys asked was how long have we known about the concerns and why is a replacement critical now? We became aware of this issue with the Sig Sauer P320s platform several years ago, back in 2021. I directed Sergeant Harrison Schmidt, our department's lead firearms instructor, to examine the reported issue involving the P320. At that time, Sergeant Schmidt spoke directly with Sig Sauer engineers and law enforcement representatives regarding the operation of the pistol's internal safety systems and reports of unintended discharges. Sig Sauer disputed the allegations and stood behind the safety of the P320. There also been an earlier voluntary upgrade program involving replacement of certain trigger components by SIG. All Cohasset Police Department guns will either receive the upgrade or were manufactured with the upgraded components. Based upon the information available to us at the time, there was not sufficient reason to remove the weapons from service. What's changed now is the issue hasn't gone away. There was another report of an unintended discharge with the Massachusetts State Police back in the end of May 2026. And that follows numerous other reported incidents nationally involving the same platform. If anybody, if you Google, Sig Sauer P320, you'll just see numerous reports of accidental discharges from officers' holsters. There's now we have additional employee safety concerns now. The Police Union Safety Committee expressed concerns regarding the continued use of the P320 and the possibility of an unintended discharge. We've taken those concerns seriously. The officers use these firearms every day, and they have these firearms with them every day in cruises, in the schools, residences and public buildings, and they're on them during arrests and prisoner handling inside the police station. We don't need to establish conclusively that every reported P320 incident resulted in a mechanical defect before making a risk management decision. So with that, my judgment, I think it's because these were on the replacement schedule for next year, for the next capital budget cycle, just to advance that, because it's going to take us a solid 6 or 8 months to replace these out and train everybody on a new gun. And it's in worst case, it's $48,000, and that's the guns, the magazines, holsters, and the duty belt gear that goes along with these things. So that's what.
Chief, is the state police, are they considering changing out theirs as well?
So I sent a link to the state police story, and right now they're conducting a full internal investigation on this. So they didn't indicate, they didn't say which way they were going to go, but there is an internal review going on. But they wouldn't commit to saying they're going to replace them all, but I have to assume they're going to.
When were these guns originally purchased?
2017, and they went in service in 2018.
But so they were part of this voluntary upgrade program, you're saying?
Yeah, when we bought these guns, we this problem came to light a few months after they went in service with us. And some of the guns were older and some of them were newer. There were different generations. So some came with the fix, and others, some of the older ones that are in service, did not come with the fix, and they had to be retrofitted by SIG. What they changed out a couple springs. I mean, I'm not a gun person, but that's the gist of it. I'm just sending this memo out to.
And do we know if these involuntary discharges are the originals or the upgraded ones that we have?
All of them are they're all upgraded now. SIG had a recall where they changed out these springs,
Mhm.
lack of a better word, and it hasn't worked. Is the bottom line. I just sent that
Mhm.
that memo to everybody.
But is 10 years a typical replacement cycle for a handgun? You're really just looking to accelerate it by 1 year.
Correct. We're on a 10
And
year.
there's a safety benefit.
Yeah, we're on a 10-year replacement cycle, and again, I'm looking to accelerate that because of the concerns and also the new concerns by the safety committee of the union. It makes sense from a risk mitigation standpoint.
And I assume we're not buying the same product.
No,
What are we buying? Has that been determined yet?
probably Glock guns. The way we do that is the safety committee and the firearms offices. The union has a big hand in this. They evaluate, they'll evaluate several different types of handguns, and the committee picks and presents it to me, and I usually go with their recommendation. And that's how we ended up with these guns. They were the latest and greatest back in 2017.
So if we haven't selected the manufacturer, how do we know the price?
It is Glock.
Okay.
We haven't selected the
Mhm.
exact model, but we
I see.
yeah.
I don't have the 10-year plan in front of me at this time. What was it? What did we have budgeted for this replacement for the next fiscal year?
I believe it was $40,000. I don't have it in
Okay.
front of me either.
Okay. Do you, because
It is
it was 40, Ben, you said?
Yeah.
Chief, what was the difference even between the first memo we got was 40 and this is 48? What's the difference there?
The 48 does not include a trade value because I don't know how
Okay.
these. I think we're probably going to get $10,000 in trade-in value, but that's up in the air because of these problems. More and more police departments are getting rid of these guns, but there's a whole community out there of people who buy these used guns, and they have more value if they're owned and used by a police department. So people actually buy these as almost like a collector's item, but I'm not exactly sure how these problems are going to impact the trade-in value. I think we're going to get, I think $300 per gun on trade.
So 40,000 is still a good net estimate after the trading.
Correct.
But it's only an estimate, not an actual firm quote.
Yeah. Once if we decide to do it, I'll have a firm number, and they'll lock in on a trade value.
Okay. So if we were to move this today, would we put a ceiling on this? Since you don't really know the number?
I would say you could. I think it'd be reasonable to do an amount up to $45,000, and I will get you a firm number.
Mhm. People feel comfortable with that? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Does somebody want to put forth the motion? It's easier for me to write when I'm talking. No, okay.
A motion to replace police handguns.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know like with
With Glock.
Glock
With,
guns model to be determined by your safety committee, the police union safety committee,
mhm.
and police chief Quigley. In an amount up to 45,000.
Safety committee.
Should we include the number of guns? I don't know how many guns it is.
In amount. Exceed. I think that number was in the original memo.
Chief, do you know the offhand the number of guns?
I believe it was 38. Because some of the offices, like detectives, get issued 2 guns. There's a big one and a small one. Same with school resource.
So do people want a quantity of guns as well as a spend limit, or?
If you could leave the quantity off, that might be best, because it depends. Certain offices get 2 guns. So it just, I mean, I'll report back to the committee what the breakout is, but sometimes the articles get too restrictive when we're quoting things through the company.
Okay, so you're gonna come back to the committee with the model, the number of guns, and the actual price.
Yes.
My only concern with not putting the numbers in, my understanding and my vote on this will be based on replacing the handguns we have. So obviously we have a cap on the amount, but I would assume it's a 1-to-1 replacement on the number of guns. So we're not adding guns.
That is true. Yes.
Okay.
1-to-1. We're not getting any more than
Okay.
what we have now.
Okay, so it's 38 guns then.
38.
Okay. Let's see. So let's modify this a little bit. Motion to replace 38
Handguns.
police handguns with Glock handguns. Model to be determined by Chief Quigley and the Police Safety Union Committee in an amount not to exceed 45,000.
The police union safety committee.
Police Union Safety Committee. Okay. Voice vote, please.
Kathy Forrest, aye.
Chris Fleisch, aye.
Ben Maloney, aye.
Chrissy Francona, aye.
Susan Franklin, aye. Okay. All right, Chief.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
folks.
Thank you.
Have a
a
good
good night.
evening.
You too.
Some dog is trying to vote.
I'm trying to quell a prison riot here.
Is Ron here? That's really not on the agenda. And we have Sarah waiting too. So Ron's in the note from you, it says he's here to give us an overview. Or telephone system, telephony system.
Good evening.
Hi, Ron.
It's like I'm kind of creepy. Let me turn a light on. Yeah, I'm a human being again. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yes, Michelle asked me to just give you a quick overview of a capital budget item that we had scheduled for annual town meeting. It's a phone system that needs to be replaced because it's at end of life. It's unfortunate, but the Mitel system that we have is an in-house or on-premise PBX system. It doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles, but it does do the job and has done the job for the last 10 years. Unfortunately, the vendor, the manufacturer, had a end of life date of 2029. So we had scheduled to have this system replaced around 2028. And then they changed that schedule and they expedited that schedule to 2027. And that was okay. We can get around that. We can handle that. And then they pretty much just ripped the rug out from underneath us and set it to 2026. So midstream, where we found ourselves within 4 months, with a system that was no longer going to be supported by the manufacturer. That meant that if we needed replacement hardware or something like that, we had to get used hardware or remanufactured hardware if we could find it. And currently that's where we find ourselves. We've had a couple of outages recently, in fact, in the police station at 1:30 in the morning, that required IT to go in and mitigate that. We would like to, if possible, expedite this to this coming special town meeting for replacement. There are some substantial hurdles associated with that timeline, though. It includes vetting the type of system that we want. So the old PBX system that we have, they still sell, and we could buy another on-premise system. Those are typically about $200,000 or a little more. Or we could look at a more up-to-date technological system called a UCAS system, or a unified communication system. That is a telephony system or a voice over IP system that is cloud-based. We pay for services. We pay for the dial tone. We pay for all of the bells and whistles and all of the enhancements that come with a unified communication system. It includes chat and messaging. It includes video conferencing. The amount of services that are tied to these unified communication systems are significantly more enhanced than what we currently have with our current PBX system. Having said that, we have put together an internal task force, representatives from schools, police, fire, and many town departments. And we are looking to vet our own internal needs with regards to unified communications and/or PBX needs. And then once we have those, sit down with a number of vendors off the state contract and look at systems that are available to us. Dan Kelly, my DCIO, and myself have already began those conversations with vendors. I've already received budgetary quotes from other towns that looked at the same systems we're looking at that have been done in the last year or so. So I kind of have ballpark figures as to what those are and the services that come along with those. I'm sure the amount of phones and extensions and end users has a big factor in what that cost is. And the quotes that I received were from towns that were larger than us. So I suspect that the numbers would be in our favor with regards to what I've received. The range in those costs have ranged anywhere from $100,000 to $160,000 for a unified communication system. So again, you're talking deployment costs, you're talking about licensing, you're talking about a whole suite of costs associated with the initial lift to get that system up and working. And then you're looking at operational costs in the neighborhood of about $35,000 potentially to run that system annually. So a service level agreement in our current system and the IT department budget is about $21,000. We would be increasing that budget by about maybe $10,000, roughly in that neighborhood. So there's a lot of moving parts to this. I'm trying to expedite this. Again, we've already had some demos for Dan and myself. There are other aspects of this that need to be considered. We have multiple, what they call NOCs, network operations centers, and they're redundant. And inside of those, we have what they call PRI lines, which supply us dial tone. So if one fails, it routes over to the other one. So we've got redundancy. Instead of going with PRI, we might want to look at what they call SIP trunks. And that's something where it combines dial tone and internet access or ISP services all into one line. That's a cost savings by doing that. It's a little tricky to set up and there's a little bit more deployment cost, but that might be something we're interested in. So we are going to break down what we need to break down to come up with some numbers, hopefully for a special town meeting, hopefully in time for you to vote on this, and then go from there. in the event that we can't get that and we don't feel like we're comfortable with the solution that we're presenting in 2 or 3 weeks, then we will have to back that up to annual town meeting in the spring. That's currently where we're at.
What's the timeline for implementing something like this?
If it's a cloud-based system, I think it's a matter of, swapping out the hardware, that is the handsets, and then standing the cloud-based solution up for us, which I believe they can do within weeks. The only question we have in some cases might be, like, Town Hall is a really old building, so there is what they call Cat 3 wiring, as opposed to Cat 5 or Cat 6 network wiring. Cat 3 requires a special adapter to run our current phone system. We would need to rewire the entire town hall, which, again, it's slated to happen anyways, but it wouldn't be done in time for this new phone system to take advantage of that new wiring. So that site would probably be problematic. We'd have to look at that more closely. And I think that's the only site that really runs Cat 3. All other buildings are new enough where they've got Cat 5 wiring. And there are some things we can do inside of Town Hall that allows us to piggyback off of the cable that is run to the computers. So they call that daisy chaining. You literally plug the network cable into the phone, and then you plug your computer into the phone. And so they're daisy chained together, and both of them run off of the same wire. So there's something we can potentially do with that as well. I would suspect that if we get funding at a special town meeting, that we would have system up in operation by the end of December.
I mean, a lot of companies are moving away from phones completely now. I mean, office workers are just on Teams and things. I mean, I can understand why you need a phone in the police station and in the school reception, but do you have any data that shows how much the individual extensions are actually used?
We do have analytics that we pull from our own PBX system, and it does show us all of the calls and incoming and outgoing and that type of thing. So we do have that data, and I agree with you. And that's why the unified communication system is attractive, because there's a lot of soft phones or software apps that can be run on computers, as you mentioned, and it doesn't require a physical piece of hardware. So that's part of what the task force has to uncover. How do we quantify that? We can take the analytics and such, but listening to each department's needs is part of this as well. So that is on the agenda as well. Another thing that is big too, and we lose some portions of that if we go with the on-premise PBX system, and that is AI. AI is in everything these days. It's touching all technology. It's really prevalent in unified communication systems and what they're doing with regards to automated call answering and routing, as opposed to auto attendants. So there's some things that are going on there, and that's changing so rapidly that I think if we went with a unified communication systems, you'd always be on cutting edge technology, for lack of a better word, as opposed to having to wait to rip out a 10-year-old system and put a new system in to achieve those benefits.
I guess similar question to Ben, like where I've seen AI play a role with any sort of calls, it's more like call centers at this point, and replacing sort of humans answering phones. Do we have, I mean, how much volume do we have for, I don't know how relevant that benefit is without the volume.
Yeah, I don't have the analytics off the top of my head, but I know that we have access to those, and we have pulled them in the past. I shared them in the past with town managers just so you could get some indication of how the system was being used and such. That often was used to change the auto attendant. So we would always put departments that obviously had the most volume up front in the auto attendant, because obviously that's where people want to get to. So why wait for problem number 7 to select the department you want? That just irritates everybody. So yeah, that is one thing that we definitely have to look at.
We don't have Ralph, our technology guru, here anymore, but I know the question he would ask is the impact on the network of the additional traffic going, cloud-based traffic.
Yeah, everyone that I've spoken with regards to the network traffic and overrunning the backbone, so to speak, is negligible. The fact that they're recommending that we can even daisy chain suggests that the amount of traffic or amount of data and voice packets that are going over the network from the same wire is not overloading it, suggests that it's minimal at best. The data from your computer and voice calls will not impact this significantly whatsoever.
Okay.
Some of the unified communication bells and whistles include, follow me, so it can literally follow you wherever you go. If you can, you have some options of doing that with our existing PBX. You can forward calls to your cell phone. But this has a little bit more intelligence to it, where it'll actually hunt you down and find you, depending on how many rings before it's picked up. So there's some. I don't know how many of us really want to be tracked that well, but those things are available. So,
Okay.
Again, I expect to have some additional information for you, hopefully in 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks at the outside. We're meeting with vendors this week, having some demos. I've already received, like I said, some rudimentary ballpark quotes. But there's some deeper conversations that have to occur regarding the SIP and the trunks. And that is something we can probably change to or swap to later on down the road. But getting off of these old ShoreTel, MyTel switches that are 10 and 11 years old that are starting to fail is pretty critical at this point.
So that's outside the number that you're talking about for the system. That's like our own internal framework.
Yeah,
We'd
so
have to upgrade.
I pay Comcast approximately $400 a month for PRI circuits, which gives us our dial tone. And then there's old-fashioned POTS lines or analog lines that also reside in each of the buildings for survivability. I don't believe those will be touched, but those have to be looked at as well.
Okay. Sounds like you have a lot of work ahead of you.
Yeah, some is always a big lift for IT, with trying to get teachers back up and running, the first week in school and stuff and everything that's transpiring. We've got other projects that are going on. So we're wrapping most of that stuff up. So right now it's pretty much me that's actually going after this, and I'm trying to drag Dan in wherever possible. Yeah, it's a big lift, but we'll get there.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions for Ron? Doesn't look so. All right, thank you, Ron, for the introduction, and then we'll be talking to you again soon.
Have a good night. Good night.
You too. Okay, can promote Sarah.
Hi,
Hello. How are you?
sorry. I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
So I believe you asked me to come to share some information about the feasibility study.
Mhm.
Okay, I have a presentation that was shared with you. Can I just share it from my screen if you give me sharing rights? Okay, great. Can you see that without seeing your cells on there too?
Yes.
Okay. Whoop. Okay, so though I'm here to talk about the feasibility study, I can't have that conversation without looping in the Osgood roof, because the roof actually is part of the funding source for the feasibility study. That is the very last piece of the eligibility phase of the MSBA project. So we're going to be looking to bring 2 warrant articles to the special town meeting. The first is to request a vote to bring funding that was reimbursed by the MSBA to the district back into the school stabilization fund. If you recall, the original estimate for the roof was $5,858,000. The actual cost of the roof is up to, and I say up to because even though we're just about done, there were some contingency monies built into this cost, and I actually don't think we're going to spend all of this. But the cost was up to $2,687,147. The MSBA is reimbursing us 32.46% of that. The reimbursement comes in on a rolling basis as the bills come in and we pay them. And as we pay them out of the school stabilization fund, when we get the reimbursement funding back, it will come back at up to $872,515. The hope is that at this October special town meeting, we can vote to put whatever funds have already come back to us back into the stabilization fund. If we do that, that will give us enough money in the stabilization fund to then have a second article where we ask the community to vote out up to $2 million. It's a not to exceed number from the school stabilization fund so that we can allocate those monies to fund the phases 2 and 3 of the MSBA process, which is essentially phase 2 is really, and this is on the next slide, but phase 2 is to secure a owner's project manager and a design firm to then go into phase 3, which is feasibility study. The working estimate we think is going to be about $1.5 million. So the $2 million is a ceiling, not a target. And just for clarity purposes, because I know that the MSBA process can get confusing, that this vote to go into feasibility does not commit the town to actually then do a building project. That's a whole separate vote. It also hasn't determined if we're going to be renovating, adding on, or building new. That all is part of the feasibility process, and the decision is made at the end of that process. So just in case you're new to MSBA processes, we are currently in phase 1 of the MSBA process. It's the eligibility period. We've had to do things like form a school building committee, file some paperwork. We did an enrollment study. They're actually going to meet with us on September 10th to tell us what enrollment number we can use when we look at design options. And then the final step of the eligibility period is actually to have the town vote to allocate funding for the feasibility study. Once we do that, we will submit certification of that vote. We have until December 28th to do that because we are having our special town meeting in October. We'll be able to finalize this process early, which will then allow the MSBA to determine if they bring us to the December board meeting or the February board meeting, at which point either one of those two, they will then vote to move us to phase 2 of the MSBA process, which is again, forming your project team, your owner's project manager, and your design firm. Then you are able to go into stage 3, phase 3, which is feasibility study, which is where you evaluate all of your options. And the school building committee basically makes a decision using a rubric that is designed by the MSBA to decide which of those options is the best option for the community. At the end of feasibility study is when we would then vote as a community if we want to move forward with the chosen project. So that is the process. The reason, I think part of the reason that I'm here is to explain the difference between the feasibility study that we did in 2024 and why we have to do a new feasibility study. For a couple of reasons. the MSBA, first of all, does not accept you into the process of a core project as they did without the agreement to go into a full feasibility study as part of the phasing of this project, even if you've done a feasibility study in the past. In many communities, I know I've done it in a different community as well when trying to get a building project approved by the MSBA. A lot of communities do that first feasibility study to gain evidence and to gain information to build a stronger case to then be accepted into the MSBA process. That's what Cohasset did in the years prior. The town voted to do that feasibility study before I came into this position, but we actually did the study my first year in the job. It was in 2024. That feasibility study was not the full feasibility study. It stopped short after initial conceptual designs were done. We did not look deeply at those conceptual designs. They would normally have gone through an iteration process. And every step in the process of the feasibility study would also have been reviewed by the school building committee. We didn't have a school building committee in place at that time because we weren't part of the MSBA process. So those designs were preliminary. They were not fully developed. And now we need to go into a feasibility study that is far more robust. And so again, the MSBA agreement that we signed requires us to do this complete study, even though one was already done. The school building committee will be the group of people, and we have a very large school building committee actually that has people from all sorts of stakeholder groups. And they'll vet all of the process. They'll help actually hire the design firm, the OPM, and then they will look at all of the options that the design firm puts on the table for us. The new study will be able to use and reuse some of the valid work that happened as part of the first feasibility study, which is why we believe our costs will come in closer to $1.5 million versus 2 million or more. We have had conversation with the design firm who did the first feasibility study, and they have shared that some of that work is definitely reusable, that it is not going to change. Things like soil borings are not going to change over the course of 2 years. The traffic study is not going to change over the course of 2 years, things like that. So some of that will be able to be repurposed. And so the funding for this feasibility study will come 100% from the School Stabilization Fund. We know that when you take the monies that will be reimbursed from the Osgood Roof Project, along with the monies that were just voted to go into the School Stabilization Fund for FY27, there is enough money to cover the full cost of this project. And so that is why we are comfortable asking for the full cost. The MSBA provides us with information to make this estimate. We can't give you an actual cost of what the feasibility study will be because we don't have approval from the MSBA to even begin that process. In order to begin that process, we have to finish the eligibility phase, which is concluded by this vote to allocate funds. And then when we hire a OPM, the OPM will help us do an RFP to then get an actual estimate for feasibility from a design firm. These are some examples of some feasibility studies that were done that the MSBA has shared with us. They're not as recent as 2026 or even 2025, but this is what they have shared. And this is what we are basing our estimate off of. One thing that I can share with you is that the MSBA process is incredibly structured. There is no wiggle room for us to do anything outside of the MSBA process. So everything that we do from day one to, day whatever, should we get to a place where we are building a new building, is overseen by the regulations of the MSBA. And so this is the final step. This vote is the final step in our MSBA eligibility period. And once that is complete, we will have completed phase one, and we will go to a board meeting either in December or February, where the MSBA will vote to move us into phase two. So that's the overview. Happy to answer any other questions that you might have. I'm going to stop sharing. I know that was quick, but I'm not sure how much detail you needed or not.
So Sarah, on that list of other districts, have any of them moved forward on into phase two or even beyond?
Yeah, those were their actual, like close to their actual costs of feasibility. All of them are approved projects at this point. They probably
They're
are.
all approved.
Some of them may be done.
Mhm.
I've got just a few questions on the numbers, if I may, Sarah. It's Ben here.
Yeah. Mhm.
If the original estimate was 5.8 million, where was that money actually set aside, or was it a mortgage of the future school stabilization fund, or how was it intended to be funded had it come to its original cost?
Yep. So had it come through at its original cost, we would have also used this money that I'm looking to now use for the feasibility study to cover costs for the roof. And we would have had to look to fund this feasibility study in a different way. And we were
But
just
even
very
the 5.8,
fortunate.
was that money built up in the stabilization fund? Was it built up to 5.8 million, or school stabilization fund? Did you put
No,
5.8 million
no.
aside?
we
I
did
think we
not.
looked
We
for
knew
one
we were
more.
potentially going to have to do some bonding to get the rest, until we knew that every time we voted to add to the stabilization fund, it would be used to pay for the roof until we got to a place where it was paid off. But we knew we were potentially going to have to do some bonding as well.
So the 3 million that is coming under budget isn't money that can be used for something else. It's essentially unfunded capital budgets that now no longer need to be funded, if you like.
Well, we had a plan for the school stabilization fund, and
It's only
because
$1.5 million a year, isn't it?
yes, but then
Mhm.
because there was some money left in it, and then we knew there was going to be more. We also knew that we needed to fund a Deer Hill roof, so that was in the plan in a couple of years' time. And I'll have to look back. I don't have my Wi-Fi, so I can't see. But we did. I think we had like a plan that within 5 years we would have funded both the roofs.
With the
Yeah.
with
It was more
the
about-
town meeting voting to put money in the fund
Yeah.
at that 1.5 million level.
The million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because obviously, if you then take the stabilization fund and spend it on this survey, then how are you going to fund all of these other things on the 10-year plan for the school?
So we know that this would be using some of those funds, and we can't put in to even do the Deer Hill roof yet. The Deer Hill roof has to hit 20 years old, which it is about to do. And we have to wait until the accelerated repair program for the MSBA is on cycle. So we have another year or two before we can even put into the MSBA for the Osgood or for the Deer Hill roof. And by then we hope to have rebuilt up the stabilization fund.
There's a lot of there's replaced projectors, security enhancements. There's about $1 million of.
Yeah, but those are capital.
Those are capital
Those come out of
requests.
the
Those
capital
are
budget.
different. Yeah, those are different. The stabilization fund is only for facilities. It's not for regular capital requests. So this fund could be used for if we had to renovate something else at one of the elementary schools. If we don't end up moving forward with a new or renovated middle school, high school project, we will have to use these funds to do a lot of work at the secondary schools because there's a lot that will have to be addressed. We've been putting off a lot of things in hopes that we will get approval to build or renovate or add on to the middle school, high school. If that doesn't go through though, this stabilization fund is plan B, and it will just take us a lot
Oh,
longer
yes.
to solve the problems that we have.
Just as you said, the options are it renovation, addition, or new build. Is
Mhm.
regionalisation also an option, or has that already been ruled out, or is that just not likely
That-
to be recommended?
That has not been an option. It is not an option. We have not put that in as an option because we have not had conversations with any other communities about that at this point in time. We would have had to write the statement of interest to include regionalization if we had wanted that to happen. And that was not how it was written.
It was, I thought someone said that the MSBA could compel towns to regionalise. Is that not true? As a
I
condition of their funding?
I don't know the answer to that.
Oh.
I've never heard of that, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. They have not spoken to us about regionalization at all. They have approved us. They actually their approval was for the high school project, and they expanded the scope to include the middle school because they know that it's technically all one building, and our intention is to keep it all one building.
Because my understanding is we're one of the smallest towns in Massachusetts that has its own high school. I mean, we're very much, most towns our size are regionalised.
I don't know that that's accurate. I would have to do some real research on that. I know other towns that are equally as small as us that are not necessarily regionalized.
And I suppose the last question really is the elephant in the room. And if they recommend a new school and the cost is 200 million or whatever's been thrown around and the town then votes it down, then I guess we've wasted the money, haven't we? I don't know what sense we have of whether the town would be prepared to vote for that sort of a sum.
Yes, that is, I guess, the elephant in the room, and that is the case. I can tell you that very few projects in MSBA pipelines end up not getting approved. Though I can think of one recently, and it has come back around and was voted approval. It didn't fail because of cost. It failed because of the location they had chosen. But ultimately, that's the will of the voters. And I think the hard part is that you can't get to ask them until you've allocated these funds to do that full study. And so that is part of the risk that you take in order to get to a place where the town then gets to vote on if they want the new school or renovated school, whatever the case might be, when we get there.
And phase 2 and phase 3 looks at all the options, not just a new build, but also a renovation.
Correct.
So
They force you to, first you do one option that is purely just renovation in the sense of just systems upgrades. It ends up looking almost exactly the same as it currently does, but the systems have been fixed. Then you look at renovation upgrades that include more than just systems. And then you look at renovation addition options and then new builds. It's an incredibly thorough process.
I had to step away, so apologies if this has already been addressed. I've heard, not in this meeting, but just sort of in town, that this project is planned around a new type of learning. Could you speak to that? And if so, like, I'm curious if there are other schools that have followed that approach and have built a building around it.
Sure. So I would say it's not necessarily a new type of learning. It's more project-based and deeper learning where students are doing more hands-on learning. A lot of our students are doing some of that already, and it's something we're trying to do now with or without a new building because it's best teaching practices. A new building facilitates that type of learning as opposed to creating roadblocks to that happening where teachers have to get creative and try to accommodate for that. It's why you see a lot of kids when you walk through the schools sitting on floors and hallways with their laptops and their pens and paper on the floor. I would tell you, having been a part of 2 building projects already in prior districts, I think most schools are actually building for this type of learning model now. I have designed 2 schools already that are around this model. The middle school in Situate is one. If you've ever been in that building, it is designed to facilitate more collaborative and project-based, inquiry-based, deeper learning experiences for students.
What is the risk there though? Like what does it not allow for that the current school would allow for?
What does it not allow for that? I would say nothing. It doesn't preclude us from doing anything that we currently do. It
Okay.
just opens up possibilities for what we could do.
I mean, the Situate High School must be a similar age, isn't it? It certainly visually looks quite similar, is it? Do you know if they're planning a new high school?
No, because they built the new middle school, but then the next school in line was elementary. So at Situate is actually taking 2 of their elementary schools and they're in process of building. If you go down near Hatherley School, you'll see they're building a new school there. It's partway done. And they're going to close 2 elementary schools, merge them into this one new school. So their age of buildings is different than Cohasset's age of buildings. And so the elementary schools needed far more attention than the high school did after the middle school was built. So every town is different in what schools they build because it's based on the needs of the building versus just wanting a school to be done. The middle school was first in Situate because that building, when I wrote that statement of interest, was literally 100 years old. So.
Does anyone have any other questions other than the ones that Ben has posed? No. Chrissy? All set?
I guess only other question, and again, apologies if you answered it. This funding, would this pool of funding be used for operations, for the operating budget for the school, or is it a separate
So you
a
froze
separate funding
for-
source?
Yeah, you froze for a
You
second.
froze for a minute there,
I
but
can-
it
I'll just ask
sounds
again.
like, okay.
I'll just ask
go
again.
ahead.
So this funding,
Oh,
this funding source would otherwise be used for funding the operation, just operating budget for the schools? Or is it a separate, it's a separate funding
No,
source?
this is a completely separate funding source. This was a capital school stabilization fund that was voted by the town to create this stabilization fund that is literally just for major school facility projects. It could not
Okay.
be used for anything else.
Okay.
yeah, it's very similar to the roads and sidewalk.
Yep.
Mhm.
Stabilization fund.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. I mean, I don't have any further questions specifically on what you presented tonight.
Okay.
I do hear where Ben's coming from a little bit. I mean, you are kind of making a huge commitment to move forward. But we can't move forward if we don't make the commitment. So that's sort of the situation.
Mhm. And we will be reimbursed by the MSBA 32-ish% for the cost as well. I did fail to mention that. So we will get
And-
back.
Yeah,
what's-
you're talking about the
The
200.
cost of the study. Well,
of
the
the
1.5
study.
million for the study.
Mhm.
They'll send us. Okay.
Yes.
32%. Okay.
Is there
It
any
looks
way
like
we could do like
Chrissy's
some sort
asking.
of straw vote before? Oh, here, I'm gonna shut my video off and just try that. Is there any way we can do some sort of like almost straw poll before. I think I echo Ben's concern that I, I I'm I have young children. I'm very supportive of the future of the school, but I don't know how many people in town are that would vote for such a huge capital project.
I would be very hesitant to do a straw vote because we would be asking them to vote with no information. The feasibility study is designed to provide the information that people need to make an informed decision. Without
So I
doing
guess
that,
by asking them to vote for the feasibility study, that is sort of the straw vote in some ways.
it is. Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, the town ultimately is going to decide, right, if this goes forward or not.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, but I don't think this will have any problem getting through town meeting. I think town meetings tend to support these type of projects. The issue will become when you have a wider town ballot, actual capital funds. That's a long way down the road.
Mhm.
Well, what's the sort of overall timeline then? If this went ahead, and how long does the study take? A year or something?
Takes about 18 months.
Yeah.
And then at the end of that 18 months or so is when you do the full vote for the town. Goes to town meeting. If it passes town meeting, it goes to ballot vote. And then if it's successful, then honestly, the timeline from there until doors open is dependent on the route you chose, the school building committee chooses to take. If it's a new build, I've seen those be as short as 2 years. On top of, there's a design document, construction design document phase that happens after the vote if it's positive. So that takes about a year, and then it's about 2 years if it's a new build typically. I've also seen projects that take anywhere from 36 months to 48 months if it's a phased project. So if it's like an ad reno or even just a reno, those tend to take longer because you have to move students and staff according to where the building work is happening. So hard to give you a true estimate because I don't know where we'll land yet.
Is there
So,
room to build a new school and then demolish the old one, or would you have to again do a lot of
If
manipulation to move things around?
if it's a new school, they just build it while you're in. You don't have to move students at all, which is why it's about a 2-year project versus a 36 or 48-month project.
so Sarah, you said that the school committee would pick the option after the feasibility study,
The school building committee,
school
which
building,
we have formed, yeah.
and that would be the option that would be brought to town meeting at that time.
Yes.
Mhm. I know this is kind of asking you to look in your crystal ball, but would the townspeople have any engagement at all at that level in terms of the options? Would you be looking for any feedback from the town?
Yeah, so my experience, which I would intend to copy here, is that the feasibility process includes multiple public sessions where people can get updates, where they can give feedback and provide some input. One of the first things that will happen if we enter into feasibility is that our OPM and our design firm will help build a website that is attached to our school website that just provides ongoing information to families. I typically, what I've done as well is have public sessions. I've done like roaming tours. I've gone to open houses, parent PSO meetings, all of the things to be able to get as much information out there to the community. I've gone to senior centers. I've had, evening meetings that are in different locations, places like the library, things like that, because we want everyone to know what's happening. We want the feedback. We want to answer as many of the questions as we can before we even get to the place where we're asking people to vote. My hope is that by the time we get there, people will actually be sick of me talking about it.
Right. Well, there's different pockets of interest. I mean, you have the people with young kids they would have their opinion on what they would want the future to look like. But then you also have the people who will have kids that are in the building at the time that it's undergoing this process, and that could be disruptive. I'm sure we try our
Mhm.
best that it isn't. So they may have a little bit of a different view on how they perceive what's the right direction to take in the project. So that's kind of what I'm getting at. There's just so many different audiences. So just getting their feedback so that we don't end up in situations where, we put a lot of dollars towards something, think we're done, like just happened on public safety, get a vote, and then it gets shot down at the ballot,
Right.
So,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah. And part of the good news and the bad news about working with the MSBA is that it's such a structured and regulated process that all of that information gets out there beforehand.
It's good to hear.
Sorry, finally, can we read anything into the school roof coming in under budget, or was that just a special case, or it's not a sign of some plateauing out of construction costs or anything?
So I think it's a little bit of things are starting to stabilize a little bit just based on my conversations with some different design firms and OPMs. Again, that crystal ball, I have no idea what the future holds. We could hit another, hopefully never again, but COVID type of experience. That's when the cost just went sky high. But as of right now, they're sort of stabilizing a little bit.
We have heard from the public safety OPM that there's not a lot of incentives to be building in the city of Boston right now. So a lot of the Boston developers are moving out into the burbs and just creating more competition.
Oh, that's interesting. I think also, like with the roof, I think that there's also a push to estimate high at the onset of a project so that it's because it's far easier to come in under budget than to have to go back and ask for more money, which is something that happened a lot during COVID. So I think people are seeing higher estimates and then the reality ends up being a little lower too.
What kind of freedom does the town have in selecting, the contractors and all that? Or is that all part of the MSBA structure, and is it heavy union or?
So it's very much a part of the MSBA structure. The school building committee will do all of the hiring for both the OPM and the design firm. And then those two groups, along with the school building committee, will decide at some point, sometimes during feasibility, we'll make that decision where we either want to bring on a CM at risk or wait and look for a construction management team at the end of it. But all of that ends up being highly regulated by the MSBA. The MSBA has, I guess they kind of have final say over who you hire. If you end up as a school building committee choosing one firm and they feel like that firm has too many projects already, they may tell us that that's not the firm that we can use. So they ultimately, I like to say, like they say jump, you say how high. Within reason, there's a little bit of wiggle room where you can go in and have conversations with them, but a lot of it is highly, highly regulated by them.
Because I
They're
mean,
good
I did look
partners,
at, as far as I can tell, I mean, if the cost is really 200 million and that's the town's share, that will be the largest school project undertaken ever by a town in Massachusetts by some distance relative to the size of the town. You know,
So
that would be
I-
about 5% of the tax levy in one go. And I don't think any other schools come close to that.
So I would want to look at combined schools though, because this is two
Well, I mean, that's
schools,
true.
not just
It's-
one.
True.
So you have to look at middle high school projects or like, multiple projects that were all in one building. Because you can't really compare just a middle school to our project or just a high school to our project. Because it's a very different concept.
It's almost, in some ways, it's unfortunate, isn't it? Because you're forced to do both at once, whereas it'd be nice, in some ways, easier to do them one after the other. But, we don't have that
Yes,
choice.
and we actually gain a lot of efficiencies by having a combined building. We'll only have one cafeteria, one kitchen. So there's a lot of shared space that we get there as well.
But you do end up, it seems likely that we'll end up with one very substantial.
Yeah, we'll have one heating system, one, electrical
Yeah.
system. So while it does feel pricey, we're kind of getting two schools for the price of one. And if we had done them separately, the cost would be that much higher because we'd have
Yeah,
to duplicate all of those systems.
Anything else, everybody? All set, no other questions? All right. I think if we have further questions, we'll just submit them by email. If anybody on the committee has questions that they would like to submit them to me and we'll send one email over to Sarah.
We're not voting on this tonight. No.
I don't believe Michelle
I think Michelle said we don't vote on
said we're not voting on it tonight.
Correct.
the capital fund.
Yeah. It's just a conversation for tonight. Great. All right. Thank you, Sarah. That was very informative.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
You too. Okay. Public safety. Well, it was really just last week. Kathy had presented that all the paperwork from all the prior work that has been done was put out there on OneDrive, and people were going to begin digesting the information. So we just wanted to find out on the committee here, did anybody come across anything that they had a question on that we could
I will have questions on the benchmarking study. When are we planning? I have not put my questions into that document. When would we be planning to discuss that?
It probably would be good to book a time, a meeting for the Glenn and the chiefs to come. And so that would give us a date to kind of center our, give us a due by date for those.
Okay, that's a good idea.
So I don't know what we have in the next few weeks. I think we originally talked about like the 14th, but I don't think I'm here. And then maybe the week. We had talked about the 14th. I can't make that meeting, but maybe the 21st. But I don't know what else we might have on our agenda for then. Presumably all the warrant articles will have to be
Well,
done
that'll
by then.
begin.
Because for the special town meeting, because that is
Yeah, the special town meeting articles. Some people,
done. Because the selectmen are voting on the 8th.
yeah, well, Ron will be back prior to that, so that'll be on the agenda. But yeah, we could put the benchmarking study as a discussion point.
Okay. And this
Yeah.
would just be the police one. I don't want us to spend too much time on the fire one at this point, given that we don't have anything to benchmark it to really at this point.
Yeah. We haven't done any work on it.
All right, I'll check with team September 21st. And then I also wanted to get some tours scheduled, in particular for people who didn't go on the Marshfield tour. So Ben and Susan and I think Chrissy. And I can set up a doodle poll for you guys, but it would be nice if I knew, like, are there days of the week that are better for you guys that I can put in that doodle poll? Like, should I stay away from Mondays and Fridays, or, I don't know what your work
Yeah.
schedules are like.
Wednesdays are never good for me.
Okay, so not Wednesdays.
I'm pretty flexible, particularly next week.
Okay,
Flexible to Kathy.
okay. Then we would just, what I would do is probably do the schedule around these three, since we've already been there, and then we can just jump on
Fine.
if we're around.
Fine.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, not that you're not important, Chris.
Not important. I'm fine with it.
Okay. Chrissy, are there specific weekdays that work for you?
I saw the chief's note. It's going to be hard for me to make a weekday morning and take the time for that. I mean, I'll try my best based on the schedule, but might also just be helpful. I don't know if there's a way to do like a video tour of it as well. Someone could just even record it.
Would an evening work then for you?
Evenings are hard just with kids.
We'll put together a doodle poll.
Right.
To come up with.
Right. And have you started your process yet?
Yeah, I've done a few things. I need some time with Michelle, so I haven't managed to set that.
Okay. All right then. I think that we've covered everything that we had on the agenda. And if there are no further topics, then I'd say that we're prepared to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Right.
Aye.
I'm Chris Byche, aye.
Kathy Forrest, aye.
Melanie, aye.
And Chrissy, Susan, I. It is 8:02. And we'll see you all on was it the 14th? Meeting adjourned. Meeting is adjourned.
The next meeting is when, sorry?
I thought it was the 14th, but
Yeah.
you said the
Sure.
21st.
No, the 14th. I'm just not going to be here.
Oh, so yeah, the next meeting is the 14th.
That's a while.
Yeah. All right.